Hi, this is Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and you have come to square number 3 of the Friends Around the World Crochet Along for 2018. This one is called Snow Maiden, and as you can see by the written pattern here, this was created by Margaret Krueger, and her information is right there. It's also going to be located in the description of this video. So if you want to know how to get in touch with Margaret or check out her website, please go ahead and check out the information that is down below in that video description. Okay, let's talk about some of the things that you're going to need. Okay, for this project, let me just show it to you. You're going to need a size 5.00 millimeter or an H crochet hook. You're going to need some worsted weight yarn. Margaret used Lion Brand's Vantage Choice. I'm actually going to be using some Red Heart Super Saver. It really doesn't matter. If you're in those places where you really enjoy using wool, that's totally up to you, as long as you're using a worsted weight. Now, if you wanted to use a DK weight, that would be absolutely fine too, but just know that your square is going to be slightly smaller, more along the lines of 10 inches square instead of the 12 inches square that we see here. We're also recommending that you have some stitch markers. Now, if you don't have some stitch markers, don't get in the car or race out to the store to buy some. If you just even want to use some contrasting, colors of yarn and to mark your places, that also works well for this. We're also going to need a darning needle or a yarn needle. Let me show you the one I'm going to use. And this is just really helpful for hiding those loose ends. Okay, now let me just say a word about the colors used in this square. Just know that you are free to do this however you want. This is an opportunity to let your creativity run wild when it comes to color. You may use a different color for every section here as we go along, or you may just make a solid color with the texture that's provided. That would look excellent as well. I'm going to use 3 colors. I'm going to try to stick close to what Margaret did. And I'm going to go ahead and be using these 3. Now, how much yarn exactly, I can't really say, but for the entire project, we're estimating between 3,600 to 4,000 yards total. Now, you may have just about that amount around your house in your stash. That could work, or you may just go ahead and decide to purchase yarn and make all of these squares match somehow. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Be sure that you go ahead and print out a copy of the square. There's a lot of excellent information here regarding special stitches and tips and everything, and we'll cover the ones as needed as we go along. But do be sure to read through the pattern so that you have a good understanding of what we'll be doing. To begin the Snow Maiden square, we're going to start by making a magic circle. Now, the way I like to do that is I hold my yarn in my non-dominant hand, and I'm going to wrap my 2 fingers just 2 times like this, and I bring the yarn over to the side, and I'm going to pull it up with my hook, and I'm going to give it a chain, just a chain 1. Now I'm going to very carefully work 8 single crochets in this area. Now, if you have a better way of doing the magic circle, please feel free to go ahead and do what you're most comfortable with. This is just the way I learned, and it seems to work for me. I know there are a lot of other YouTube videos out there if you wanted to check them out and see what the variations might be. Okay, let's check to make sure that I have 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are single crochets. Now I'm going to pull up my loop a little bit. Now this is where it can get a little bit tricky. This strand here that's left, I'm going to go ahead and give it a tug, and notice how the strands close in, but not all the strands. So I'm going to put my hook back in the middle. I'm going to give it a little tug, and that'll help to shorten the other strand. And I'm going to do that back and forth a couple of times until I get that center very tight. Okay, that's 2, that's 3. Put the hook in the middle, give it a little tug. I'm getting close here. Try to get that a little bit, one more time. Okay, give it one more tug, and we are good to go now. Okay, it's nice and tight. Magic circle. Okay, now after we do that, the directions say to join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet. Now this little section here, that little loop is actually the chain 1, so make sure that you're doing this into a single crochet and not the chain 1. Okay, so we go do a slip stitch. Okay, after we've worked that join for round 1, we're going to go on to round number 2, which is the petal stitch. And the petal stitch is made like this. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to work a half double crochet in that second chain from the hook, and then a slip stitch in the next chain. Now we're going to skip the first stitch, and then we're going to go to the second stitch here, and we're going to work only in the front loop of the round 1 single crochet, and we're going to work a slip stitch there. And then we're going to do another petal stitch. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, work a half double crochet in that second chain from hook, slip stitch in that next stitch. Now we're going to skip the next stitch here on round 1, and we're going to slip stitch again in the front loop only of that next stitch. We're going to do that 2 more times. I'll do that with you. Chain 3, half double crochet in that second chain from hook, slip stitch in that next stitch, skip the next stitch on round 1, and work in the front loop only of the next stitch with the slip stitch. And we're going to do this 1 more time. Chain 3, half double crochet in that second chain from hook, slip stitch in the next stitch, skip the next stitch on round 1, and then slip stitch in that next stitch. Okay, so this is what you should have. After you do that, let's see how we are to end this. It is join with a slip stitch to first chain of first petal. So that first chain is way over here. So let's go ahead and do a slip stitch there, which is kind of nice because that kind of squares things up and makes the space between these even. Now for round 3, we're actually going to work in the remaining loop of that round 1. Okay, we're kind of layering our texture here. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to do another petal stitch. 1, 2, 3, half double crochet in that second chain, and slip stitch in the next stitch. Now where to anchor this? Okay, it says to slip stitch into back loop of next stitch from round 1. Okay, so the next stitch, I believe, is right here. So we're going to anchor that right there. And then the directions, this is round 3 now, say to do that 8 times. So we're going to make these petal stitch around, anchoring them to the remaining loop, but we're not going to be skipping loops on the round 1 like we did for round 2. Hopefully I'm not confusing you there. Okay, so we're going to chain 3, half double crochet in that second chain, slip stitch in the next stitch. Now we're going to slip stitch in the very next stitch, which is right here. And remember, we're using the back loop, or that remaining loop, in order to do this. Now we're going to do that 8 times. 1, 2, 3, half double crochet in that second chain, and then single crochet in that next stitch. And then, I'm sorry, that's a slip stitch, not a single crochet, slip stitch, and then slip stitch in the next stitch. 1, 2, 3, half double crochet in that second chain, slip stitch in the next stitch, and then slip stitch in that next stitch on round 1. So go ahead and do that all the way around. After we have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 petals, and we've gone all the way around, we're going to anchor it by working a slip stitch to chain 1 of the first petal. So I'll go ahead and do that just like so. Okay, so we're done with the first 3 rounds. Now for round 4, we're to chain 2, 1, 2, and the directions say to slip stitch in back loop of slip stitch between petals from round 3 8 times. Okay, so we're going to find the slip stitch, and that would be the slip stitches in between the petals down here. Okay, so let's read those again. Slip stitch and back loop of slip stitch. So just using that back loop, okay, the back loop, which would be right here. Hopefully you can see that. We're going to slip stitch. Okay, I have my chain 2 here. I know this is a little tight to see, but I think hopefully this will help. Okay, and then we're going to do that all the way around 8 times. So we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to do a slip stitch in the back loop of that slip stitch that's in between the petals, like that. Chain 2, and working in that back loop, slip stitch. Okay, do you see that? Do you see how this is the front loop and I'm only using the back loop? Okay, 1, 2 chains, and then make sure that petal goes to the back, slip stitch. Make sure you push those petals to the front. Chain 2, and sorry about that, I'm trying to find the loop. There it is. Slip stitch, chain 2, and slip stitch in the back loop of that next slip stitch, chain 2, and slip stitch in that back loop, chain 2. Okay, so I think I've gone all around. Let's double check to see how many chain 2s I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this is number 8. Do you see that? Okay, so what do we do after we do that? We're going to join with a slip stitch to the base of the first chain 2. So the first chain 2 is over here. So we're just going to put a slip stitch in that base, like that. Okay, now we're ready for round number 5. Round 5, it says to slip stitch to the chain 2 space. That would be this one. Do a slip stitch there. And then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to work 3 double crochets in that same chain 2 space. 1. Whoops, let's try that one again. 2, 3. Now this chain 3 here is actually going to serve as a double crochet. So just wanted to be clear about that. Okay, after we do those 3 additional double crochets in that same space, that same chain 2 space, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to work 4 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. Chain 1, and then 4 double crochets in the next chain 2 space. And go ahead and work that all the way around, just like that. This round ends by working a chain 1, and then we're going to work a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, and that's what you should have after the first 5 rounds. Okay, now from this point on, the center of what you're going to see may look a little different because I had to rework mine. This is actually the correct version. So if you see something that looks a little different in the center going forward, please don't worry about that. This is the correct version. I'm just going with what I had worked before. But in order to finish this round now, we are going to simply give it a chain, a tug, and I'm going to fasten off because I'm going to be using color changes in mine. Okay, so now let's go on to round number 6. Okay, I'm going to show you how to work a standing single crochet. It tends to eliminate some of the bulkiness when joining new yarn by using a slip stitch and a chain 1 and then the stitch itself, because that generally ends up to be a little bulkier. So we're going to try to make it a little more streamlined. We're going to work a slip stitch And if you need the directions to this more specifically, they're listed on the second page of the pattern. Okay, now I'm going to take my hook out, and I'm going to find, I can join anywhere at the beginning of these 4-stitch double crochet clusters. I'm going to go ahead and join here, and I'm going to bring it through like this, and the directions do say to chain 1, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then I'm going to make my single crochet just like so, and I'm going to single crochet in each of the next 3 single crochets. I'm sorry, double crochets. Single crochets worked in the double crochets. Also notice that I worked over this strand because it just makes it a lot easier hiding the strands later on. So I have 4 single crochets, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to work a treble crochet, and we're going to work that in the remaining front loop back on round number 4. Okay, so round number 4 will be right here. It should be that last little loop that's remaining. And go ahead and work a treble crochet right there. Now we go back to single crochets, and I'm actually going to go back to hiding that loose strand in the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And notice I am working through both of the loops of the double crochets. And now we're going to do a treble crochet, connecting it to that remaining loop right there, which is of a slip stitch from round number 4. And then back to 4 single crochets, 1 in each of those double crochets. And then another treble crochet worked in that remaining loop from that slip stitch of round 4. And then 4 more single crochets. So go ahead and work this all the way around. I wanted to show you something else as we're working our way around this the circle here. Now I did come to the chain 3, and so obviously that's counted as one of our double crochets. Go ahead and put your first slip stitch, I'm sorry, single crochet in the top of that turning chain, because that does count as one of the double crochets as you go around. Okay, I just wanted to show you that so that that doesn't get confused. At the end of the round, we just join with a slip stitch in that first single crochet of the round, working through both stitches. And go ahead and give it a chain and a tug. That's how I like to fasten off, and leave a nice long strand for working in once we finish the round. Now for round 7, I'm going to begin using a contrasting color yarn to the last yarn that I used. Again, if you're using all one color, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to pick the first of the 4 single crochets just anywhere around the circle. Before I do that, let me go ahead and do my slip knot so I can do my standing double crochet beginning there. Alright, so we slip our hook in there. I can find the hook, there you go. Pull the loop through and just simply do a chain 2. Okay, now to begin the beginning 3 double crochet together cluster, this is the first that we're going to do. We're going to insert the hook and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. We'll do that again, yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Okay, now that's going to be the first one. Let's go back to the pattern, and then after we do that, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. We're going to skip the next stitch here, and we're going to do what we call a double crochet 3 together cluster. So we're going to, like we're doing a double crochet, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and do that 2 more times. Yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and again wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through all 4 loops on the hook. Go ahead and chain 2. We're going to do this 19 times, so it should take us all around the circle. So let me go ahead, I'll do another one with you. We're going to skip the next stitch, wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. I'll do that 2 more times. Wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, wrap, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops on the hook. Go ahead and give it a chain 2. Go ahead and do that all the way around. I'll do one more with you a little faster. I'm going to skip this stitch, and we make our cluster. Wrap and pull through all 4 loops on the hook, chain 2. So go ahead and complete this all the way around. After working that all the way around, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that first chain 3. And I'm going to fasten off because I am changing colors. Again, if you're not changing colors, don't do what I'm doing, just continue on. I'm going to go ahead and pull that through. Now, we had 19 repeats, but we should have 20 clusters. Okay, the first cluster was not included in that 19. So if you start with this one and count all the way around, you should have 20 clusters. Those double crochet together, 3 double crochet together clusters. Now come the stitch markers. The directions say to place a stitch marker in each of the 4 DC3 togethers which have been worked into a treble from round 6. So let's go ahead and see where these clusters were worked into the treble. There's one there. So go ahead and put a stitch marker there. We're actually starting to define our corners a bit. Let's look for another one. There's another one right here. So we'll go ahead and put a stitch marker right there. Let's look for another one. Okay, another one right here. And I'm putting it right in the top of the stitch that joins them all together. Okay, and the last one right here. You see where it's joined together. Okay, so now they should be in equal space apart. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if yours didn't come out that way, something might have gone wrong somewhere, but you can probably make up the difference just by finding, you know, these stitches like so, and there should be 4 clusters in between each of the stitch markers. Okay, we can now join this into any chain 2 space. I'm just going to arbitrarily pick this one, pull up, and I'll go ahead and chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to work 2 double crochets in that same, and I am going to double crochet over this loose thread. Okay, that's 1, 2. So this chain 3 does count as a double crochet. Okay, so after we do that, we are going to, let's see, we're going to work 3 double crochets in the next chain 2 space, and we're going to do that 19 times around. Okay, so we're not going to chain in between these or anything. We're going to just do 3 double crochets in that chain 2 space and do that all the way around. 3 double crochets. And we're just going to go ahead and, you know, just be careful of these stitch markers. Make sure that they remain there. And go ahead and just complete that all the way around. I'm going to do 3 double crochets in each chain 2 space. At the end of this round, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3. And I'm going to go ahead and fasten off because I am changing to another color. Again, if you are using a solid color for this square, that's quite all right. Don't fasten off. Just continue on to the next round. Now I just want to make sure we can still see those stitch markers. Okay, so we're going to need those, I believe, on the next round. Now we're ready to begin round 9. Let's go ahead and start with a little slip knot. I really am enjoying using this technique. And we're going to go ahead and remember we pick the cluster that's before the stitch marker and the first stitch of that cluster. So we'll go ahead and pull that through, and we're going to chain 1 single crochet in that stitch. And what else does it say to do? We're going to work 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and notice I am working over this stitch to help hide that loose strand. Okay, now this is what's important. The next thing it says is working in front of the work. That means your work is going to be on this side rather than on the back side. We're going to treble crochet in the DC together, like where the stitch marker is there. Let's go ahead and remove that, and we're going to put a treble working in the top. Do you see how I have the top of that? Go ahead and do a treble crochet right there. Okay, and now it says to move the stitch marker up into this stitch. Okay, if this was the marked stitch, and it certainly was, let's go ahead and I can get the stitch marker to go in there. There it goes. So it's right there in that stitch. Okay, so after we've moved our stitch marker, we go ahead and we're going to work 3 more stitches. I'm going to keep working over this thread here. This again, that is just my preference on this. 1, 2, 3 single crochet, and now we're going to work a treble crochet in the top of the stitch right here, and then we do 3 single crochet. That's 1 in each of those, the top of those double crochets, and do another treble worked in the top of that DC together, 3 double crocheting, 3 double crochets together. And I'm going to continue hiding that stitch just like this. And you know what, I think that's enough on that stitch there, so I'm going to very carefully clip that stitch so that it will, that strand is hidden and will never be seen again. And here's the next treble crochet. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea. I'm just going to do a couple more for you. So we're going to single crochet in the top of the next 3 double crochets, and then we work a treble in the top of that DC 3 together cluster. And I'm going to do this for you one more time. Single crochet the next 3 stitches, and now here you have a stitch marker. Now for this one, you're going to take the stitch marker out. I'm going to go ahead and put that treble crochet in the top of that next stitch, and we're going to replace that stitch right there. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Go ahead and do that all the way around. As we finish this round, don't forget that last cluster. Go ahead and put a treble crochet there, and then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of the round. And now we're done with round number 9. Even if you're changing colors, stick with this color for the next section. And now we're going to start making this circle into a square. And there is a tip listed, and it says the marked stitches are the corner stitches with 19 stitches between each one. Okay, so now we're ready to begin round number 10. It says to chain 3, and this is going to count as a double crochet. Now we're going to work a treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. And now we come to the marked stitch, and this is where we're going to form our first corner. I'm going to go ahead and remove the stitch because we know that this is the key stitch right here, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to work 2 treble crochets, a chain 2, and then 2 trebles in that marked stitch. So let's go ahead and do that. 1, 2, notice I went in the same stitch again, 2 trebles, chain 2, and then 2 trebles again in that stitch. Okay, so we do have a corner starting right there. Okay, so now after we do that, we're going to do 2 trebles. Now this is 1 stitch in each stitch as we go along here. 1 treble there, and then 1 treble in the next stitch. And now we're going to do 2 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. Double crochet, double crochet, and then we're going to do 4 half double crochet. We're going to go through all of our stitches there. 3, 4, and then 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and now we're going up to the bigger sizes again. 4 half doubles. 1, 2, 3. Let me get some more yarn here. And 4 half double crochets, and that's going to be followed by 2 double crochets. 1, 2, and you guessed it, 2 trebles. 1, 2, and now we come to a corner. And you know what to do now. We're going to go back to that little asterisk, that little star-like thing in our pattern. Whenever you see that, usually that means to repeat what's in between those 2 stars. So for the corner, we're going to do 2 trebles, all worked in the same space. Chain 2, and then 2 more trebles, again worked in that very same space. Let's stand back and see what we have here. So does that look reasonable as a square for the size? I believe it does. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So this is the second repeat in between the asterisks. We worked the corner, and now we're going to work 2 trebles. That's 1. Oops, let's try that again because that was a double crochet. We want a treble crochet. 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. And then we're going to work 2 double crochets. 1, 2, 4 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to work 3 single crochets. 1, 2, 3. And then go back to those 4 half doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 double crochets. 1, 2, and 2 trebles. 1, 2. And you know what that means? That takes us to another corner. Let's stop and see what we have so far. Now the remaining rounds are going to help smooth this out so it looks even more square than it does right now. So don't fret if it doesn't look perfectly square to you. It's not supposed to be perfectly square right now, but it will be as soon as we finish. So go ahead and repeat that again 2 more times around the remainder of this shape. Okay, and that final repeat, the double crochet, which is actually here, it looks like a chain 3, but that's going to substitute as a double crochet, and those 2 trebles have already been made for that last round. So go ahead and join with a slip stitch in the top of that chain 3, just like so. And now we are done with round number 10. Let's go ahead and take a look at what you should have for this. And let's go on to round number 11. I believe round number 11 is going to be a little easier for us. So we're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in the first 5 single crochet. Make sure that you start in the same place as joining. So that's our first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now when we get to the corner, we're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet, all in that chain 2 space. Okay, now we're going to work 23 single crochets across. So go ahead and work a single crochet in each of the next 23 stitches. After working those 23 stitches, and do be sure that you do have 23 stitches. If not, this might be a good time to correct that now and, you know, put the stitches where you need to so that you have the 23 count, because the stitch count for when we join this entire project at the end is going to be very important. And if it's not constant, it's going to be a little difficult. So anyway, we get to the next corner and we just do what we did the first time. Single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet. And then continue finishing all the way around with those 23 single crochets on each sides and the single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corners. I'm going to go all the way across to the first stitch of the round, then I'm going to join with a slip stitch. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a tug and fasten that off. Make sure, again, leave a good long string in case you need to hide that with your yarn needle. And this last side, if you count the single crochets on every side, and that is including the single crochets in your chain 2 on each count, the stitch count should be 25 stitches on each side. And of course the chain 2s in each corner. So at this point all the way around we should have 100 single crochets and 4 chain 2 corners. I'm going to go ahead and change my yarn to the blue again, or you can use whatever color you're using. Even if you are using a solid color, it was probably a good idea to go ahead and end that round, and we're going to rejoin in the corner with our yarn, whether you're using a solid color or varying the colors. So now that we're getting ready to join, let's go ahead and do our slip knot. Okay, and pick any corner. I'm going to go ahead and pick this one. Go ahead and bring that through and chain 1. We're going to single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. This is round number 12. Okay, so I've got that in the corner. And now the directions say to chain 1, skip the next single crochet, which is this one, and single crochet in the next single crochet. And we're going to do that 12 times, which should take us across the row. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next. Go ahead and do this all the way across the row to the next corner. So I've done that 12 times, and that brings us to the end of our repeat, which it says to chain 1, skip the next stitch, and then we go back to the beginning of our little asterisk there for the repeat, which is another chain single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet for the corner. Then we begin this again. We chain 1, skip the next stitch, and single crochet in the next. So go ahead and repeat this all the way around your square. At the end of this round, after we've chained 1, I'm going to go ahead and join with a slip stitch to that first single crochet of round, give it a little bit of tug, and I'm going to go ahead and fasten off again because I'm changing colors. If you're not changing colors, you don't need to do this. Okay, so now we're ready to join another color and start round 13. Now if you are changing colors like I am, we're just going to join to any corner. Now if you are maintaining the same color, just go ahead and do a little slip stitch to the chain 2 corner so that you'll be right on track with us. So let's go ahead and do our slip knot. Okay, and we're going to join to the chain 2 space of this corner, and we are going to going to make another corner here. So let's go ahead and we have our chain 1. We're going to do a single crochet. Let's pull through all the strands there. Chain 2 and a single crochet in that space there. Okay, after completing that corner, we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. Now the next part, we're going to work a double crochet in this skipped stitch here down on row 11. So make sure when you work this, we go ahead and we are working on the front side here. Okay, like that. So we're going to do that all the way across. We're going to do a slip stitch, and then we're going to work in this skipped, so if I can grab both of those loops there, that skipped single crochet from that stitch down. Okay, slip stitch, and then working in the front side, work a double crochet in that stitch. So go ahead and work this all the way across. Okay, after you've worked that last double crochet on that side, don't forget to work a slip stitch in that next single crochet, because you should have 14 slip stitches across the edge. Once you get to the corner, go ahead and work a single crochet, chain 2, and another single crochet as we turn that corner, and then we start all over again. We work a slip stitch, and then we work another a double crochet. Let's see, where is that stitch? Here it is. It's the first stitch here that was skipped, and then a slip stitch again, and another double crochet, just like you did across the other side. So go ahead and finish working all the way around the square with this. Round 13, we join with a slip stitch. Let's go ahead and do that, and the first single crochet of the round. And go ahead and check your pattern for the number of stitches you should have, and just to make sure that you have the right number on each side. Okay, so now we're ready to go on to round 14, and round 14 says to slip stitch to the corner chain space, and basically what you do is you slip stitch in that chain 2 space, and we are told to chain 5. I think what this ends up being equal to is a double crochet plus 2 chain stitches there. Okay, so now we're going to work, let's see, double crochet in the same corner chain space. So we double crocheted in that chain space. Now we're going to double crochet in the next 29 stitches. So what that means, I believe, is double crochet in the single crochet and double crochet in that slip stitch. So go ahead and work those 29 double crochets all the way across the row till you get to the next corner. It's actually a round, but go ahead and just work these across the side until you get to the corner. Once we get to that corner, then we're going to work a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet to form that corner, and then go ahead and work a double crochet in each stitch across the side. That should give you, or will give you, 29 stitches. And go ahead and actually work this all the way around until you get to the starting corner. We end this round with a slip stitch in the 1, 2, and the 3rd chain of that chain 5. Now that 3 chain series counts as a double crochet, and those other 2 as the turning chain, or rather the corner. And so you should have 31 double crochets across each side. Now that is including the double crochet that helps to form the corner. So you're going to have 31 double crochets across each side, and those 4 chain 2s in the corner. Okay, let's go on now to row 15. Now since we're going to change colors, I'm going to go ahead and give this, fasten this off with a chain and give a nice long strand there for weaving in at some point. Now we're ready for round 15, and I'm going to go back and join my brown yarn. Now again, if you're doing a solid color, you don't have to do any of this stop and to join, but I am doing that. I think I like the color variation. I'm going to go ahead and do this the way we've been doing it with our slip knot. And bring that down, chain 1, and then we're going to do a single crochet. I am working in the chain 2 corner. We're going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and then a single crochet to form the corner, just like that. And now we're going to work a chain 1, skip the next stitch, which is here, and single crochet in the next stitch. And we're going to do that all the way across the row. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet. So go ahead and do that all the way across this side of the square. So after I've done this across the row, and you should have 15 single crochet and chain 1s, and then we're going to skip the next stitch, which just also happens to be that chain 3 acting as a double crochet, and we're going to work the corner, which is a single crochet, chain 2. I'm going to go ahead and turn here, and a single crochet right like that. And now we're going to chain 1, skip the next stitch, single crochet in the next, and go ahead and do that to the next corner and all the way around the square, making sure when you get to the corner you work the single crochet, chain 2, and single crochet. So go ahead and work the rest of that. That brings us around to the last side, where we end by chaining 1 and joining with a slip stitch to that first single crochet of the round. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change colors again, so I'm going to go ahead and give it a chain fasten off, leave a nice long strand for hiding in later. Okay, now we're ready to go to our next round, and I'm going to go ahead and grab my blue yarn. I'm going to go ahead, starting round number 16, I'm going to go ahead and join my blue yarn, and if you are maintaining the same color throughout, all you need to do is slip stitch until you get to this chain 2 corner so that you can start where I'll be starting. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Chain 1 and a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet for that chain, that corner there. Now we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch, and we're going to go working down. This is actually row 16. So this is 15, this is 14 here. So we're going to make a double crochet working through the 2 loops of that double crochet that we skipped 2 rows back. Okay, so this is a stitch or a round that we've done before. So go ahead and do that all the way across. That's again a slip stitch in that single crochet, and then a double crochet in that double crochet 2 rows below on row 14. This brings us to the corner where we're just going to work a slip stitch in the next stitch, and then we are going to work a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet for that chain 2 corner. After that, we're just going to continue on with the pattern all the way around the square, which is with the slip stitch and then working a double crochet in that stitch 2 rows below, which also happens to be a double crochet. Okay, slip stitch and then a double crochet. So go ahead and work that all the way around, and making sure with the corners that you're going to be working a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet for each corner, and I will meet you at the join and show you how to do that. This brings us around to the join. We're going to go ahead and do a slip stitch in that last stitch, and then join with the slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, which also happens to be a corner. Okay, we're going to maintain the same color. So we're going to now begin round number 17 by slip stitching in that chain 2 corner like that. And then we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3. And that's going to serve as the double crochet. And then 4, 5 will serve as the chain 2 of the corner, if that makes sense. Okay, now we're going to work a double crochet in that same corner space. Now we're going to work 35 double crochet across the row, or actually across the side, I should say. So go ahead and work those 35 double crochets, 1 in each stitch. That would be 1 in the single crochet, make that the slip stitch like this, and then 1 in each double crochet. Okay, so go ahead and work those stitches to the next corner. Okay, I did double check to count all of my double crochets across, and I do have 35. Now that's not including the chain 2 and the double crochet here, but just the stitches in between that. When we get to the corner, we're going to work a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. You'll be working that in each corner, and then again double crochet in each stitch across, and you should have 35 on each side plus the corner double crochets. So go ahead and work that, and I will show you the join. At the end of round 17, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the 3rd chain like that. Okay, now we are actually going to slip stitch into that turning chain area so that we can begin round number 18. Let's go ahead and chain 1 after we've slip stitched, and now we're going to work 3 half double crochet into that chain space corner. So 1, 2, and 3. After we do that, we're going to work 37 half double crochets across the row. So go ahead and work those 37 half double crochets, and then when you get to the corner, we're going to just make 3 half double crochets in that corner just like we did there. And I will show you the join at the end of this round. At the end of round number 18, I've worked my last half double crochet in the top of that chain 3, which is an acting double crochet, and then I'm going to slip stitch to that very first half double crochet of the round. Okay, now this actually ends the 18 rounds of the written pattern, but we do have 3 more rows to go. So I'm going to go ahead and end this right here. Now you can choose to remain with that last color should you choose. For my blanket, I'm actually going to trim it in a dark chocolate brown so that there is consistency, and also when I sew the squares together, it will conceal a multitude of stitches. I would jokingly say it'll conceal a multitude of sins, but it just won't draw a lot of attention to the joining, and that's my preference in joining my squares. So let me go ahead and get my dark brown color, and I will show you the last 3 rounds. Okay, let me just show you another document. The last 3 rounds for this and all of the squares in this crochet along have been lovingly prepared by the administrators of this crochet along, and I believe Claire Sutcliffe, if I'm saying that correctly. Thank you for your work on this and compiling all of these. So we're going to turn to the page where the square Snow Maiden is listed, and again, this is the one by Margaret Krueger, and we have rows 1, 2, and 3, and let's just look at them just together for a minute. Okay, we're going to join in any corner stitch, chain 1 like we've been doing, 2 single crochets, chain 2, 2 single crochets in that corner stitch. I will show you what that means, but take note that we're not doing 1 single crochet but 2. All of this is in an effort to get the number of stitches per side to 48 stitches and then 4 chain 2 corners. This is going to be what we are going to shoot for in consistency for every square that we do, and the size on this when completed should be approximately 12 inches. Of course, you can always block that to, you know, to do what you need to do with some of these, and you're going to need to block some of these different squares during the year as you work on these, simply because they're just using a lot of collection of different stitches, so it's probably not going to be exact. I would not let that worry you, because we can block these. Okay, for round 2, we are just going to join in any corner, or we could probably just continue where we were. I will get to that when we start actually crocheting. And then we have a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner space, and then single crochet in all the other stitches. Okay, they're bringing us to a total of 45 stitches. And then in round 3, we're going to have back to the 2 single crochet, chain 2, 2 single crochets in each corner, and that should bring us up to 48 stitches per side. So let's go ahead and start round 1 of these extra rows, rounds rather. Okay, again, the directions say to start in any corner stitch. So in this case, it would be the middle half double crochet. Put that in the center more. It'll be the middle or the second half double crochet of this corner. So let's go ahead and start our corner there. Well, let's go ahead and do the slip knot first, like I've been doing. I want to be consistent here. I know this is going to be a hard color to see against the black background, but I'll try to keep it within view, and thankfully that it's simple stitching here. We're not doing anything real fancy. Okay, so now that we've joined, we're going to work. We did our chain 1. We're going to do 2 single crochets, 1, 2, a chain 2. Let me put some of that light in the background. And then 2 more single crochets. Okay, so that we do have a nice corner formed. Once we do that, it's going to be just straight single crochet stitches all the way across. Now, as we do that, there we go. So our next stitch will be in that other half double crochet. And also notice I'm going to be crocheting on top of this strand. It'll just mean 1 fewer strands to have to hide. So go ahead and work those single crochets all the way across to the corner. Okay, to end this, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first of the 2 single crochet corners. Now the directions do say to join each round separately, but I hope you don't mind. I'm going to just go ahead, since I'm using the same color, I am just going to slip stitch over to the next chain 2 corner, just like that. Okay, I hope that doesn't make it too difficult for anybody. That way it keeps me from having to cut the string and rejoin in a corner. So now that we've done that, round 2 says to join in any corner, which we've kind of already done. Chain 1, and we're going to do 1 single crochet, chain 2, turn, and then 1 more single crochet in that same place. It's only going to be a 2 single crochet, or a single crochet, chain 2, and a single crochet for that corner. And then now we're going to work a single crochet in each stitch across. And for round 2, we should have 43 stitches, not counting the corners. So if we count the corners, that would be 43, 44, 45. Well, in total, once we finish this side, we're going to have 45 single crochets if you count these in the corners all the way across. Okay, so go ahead and finish that across. And don't forget, when you get to those other corners, it's just a single crochet, chain 2 single crochet. I know I've repeated myself a lot here, but hopefully that will be a good thing and to help you there. Okay, I will show you the join once I get all the way around this round. Starting round 3, we're going to go ahead and do a slip stitch in that chain 2 space, chain 1. Now I've chosen to do this again so that I'm not having to cut the yarn, so I'm just bringing it over to that corner, and we're going to work 2 single crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more single crochets in that very same spot. Now there is a single crochet here, and we're going to skip that. It's actually partially hidden by the chain, the 2 single crochets we just crocheted. So if we skip that stitch and we start in the next single crochet and crochet all the way to the next corner, okay, that brings us to the next corner. Now so far I have crocheted 46 single crochets. That's including the first 2 single crochets of that corner. Now I'm going to add 2 single crochets. This is in the chain 2 corner, chain 2, and then 2 more single crochets. Now by skipping that hidden single crochet, that was the first of the single crochets going across here. That gives me a total of 48 single crochets. It's very important that you have 48 single crochets on each side, plus the chain 2 corners in each corner. That way when we put this thing together, you will have the correct number of stitches on each square. So go ahead and do that all the way around. At the end of this round, I join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. I'm going to give a little tug, give it a chain and a pull, and I'm going to go ahead and clip that strand, and we are actually done with this square. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have here. Okay, very nice square. One thought that I had in mind for those of you who maybe are not quite able to commit to an entire Afghan throw project is, as I was working on Margaret's design, I really liked the way the color came out here, and I was thinking that this would make a wonderful hot plate, for your kitchen. The only alternative that you would need to do, the only thing you need to do is to maybe change this project to a cotton yarn, because acrylic will melt when it comes into contact with high heat. So if you used 100% cotton, and I would even go down to a smaller crochet hook, maybe to a G crochet hook, and this would make the stitches a bit more dense and thick, and I think it would make it a little more sturdy, and maybe even end it on these outer rounds. You don't even have to do the complete square if you wanted to make a really nice hot plate. Maybe even end it with, a nice little edging of your choice. But anyway, that's just a thought that I had. We still have one more thing to do, and that is to hide these loose strands. So go ahead and pick up your yarn needle and thread like this. I'm just showing this for those of you who may need, extra hands here on how to do this. So what I like to do with these different color threads is to make sure that I run them as much as possible under the thread of that color. Okay, and you can just run it under, do this on the back side because you don't want this to be showing on the front side, and you can just run it under several of these stitches like so. Give it a nice pull. That looks pretty good. I don't think that thread is going anywhere. And then you want to clip it carefully. Make sure you don't clip your work. That would be a tragedy. And then you just clip the thread. So that's why I like to leave a nice long thread so that it makes it easier to work that. Well, go ahead and finish hiding those threads. I recommend doing them per square rather than having 33 squares to deal with in the end. It just makes life a little bit easier. But I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, please hit that subscribe button to my channel. I'll have lots of more good content coming to you in the future. Anyway, take care. God bless. Bye-bye.